Meeting has started.
All right, very good. Thank you, Gail. So could we please initiate the roll call?
Jeff Sims,
Here.
Mike Williams,
Here.
Brian McCarthy,
Here.
Jonathan Scott, Michael English,
Present.
Robert Fry, Anna Quinones. I believe they're both online.
And
Present.
I'm
Yeah,
here,
I'm sorry.
Becky.
It was muted.
Okay, got you both.
Thank you.
Laura Lenhart, I believe, is she excused today?
She is walking into the room right now.
Got it, thank you. Gina Du,
Here.
Bob Campbell,
Here.
Jesus Peraza Garcia,
Here virtually.
Rob Blossom, Frank Kaufenauer, Jay Collins,
Here.
Jennifer Malone,
Here.
Marcela Jimenez Ramirez,
Here.
Terrence McCluskey. Let me do a quick count. 1, 2, 3. I'm showing 9 in person. Is that correct?
10, I believe.
Then we do have an in-person quorum.
All right, very good. Thank you. We're good here. All right, next up is the public comment. So do we have anybody present to speak from the public?
Nobody in person, and I have not heard from anybody online unless Gail has any hands.
I don't see any hands.
It's just making sure.
Okay. Okay, so hearing none, we will move forward with approval of the minutes from the February meeting. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Jay Collins, motion to approve.
Motion approved. Do we have a second? Priscilla seconds. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Very good. Unanimously moving forward. All right, up to the action items. So first up is the tip amendment for the I-4 trucking.
Good afternoon, committee. 1 second, I'll share the screen. All right, I'm Connor Trejos McDonald here to present a tip amendment on the I-4 truck parking facility. There's a critical need for truck parking all over the US and in Florida, particularly along the major interstate corridors like I-4. Because of hours of service policies, which require truck drivers to take breaks after a certain number of hours, there are limited spaces to meet this demand. This has left many drivers parking in the right of way of exit ramps and at rest areas. This is unsafe both for the drivers and of other roadway users. There are currently only 90 public truck parking spaces from Daytona Beach to Tampa along the I-4 corridor. And to meet this demand, the proposed solution is to construct a 120 parking space facility along I-4 in Hillsborough County. So the new truck parking facility has, again, 120 spaces. It's near the Hillsborough County line. It has 6 electric hookups for refrigeration and such as other electrical needs. There would be pedestrian infrastructure to access nearby commercial amenities, road ramp improvements, and it will also be connected to FDOT's truck parking availability system. Here's another rendering of those spaces. You can see I-4 in the background. The summary of changes is to add 5.3 million in state funds for construction improvements to adjacent roadways. So I believe this is already in the tip. This would add that $5 million in construction to those additional roadways, those adjacent roadways. The timeline is that in fall, it would be letting. We'll start construction in spring 2025. Just facilities will open in spring 2026. I believe Bob Fry has his hand up. I'm not sure if they can hear us correctly.
I don't know if you're taking questions now or you're gonna wait till you finish.
Okay, yes, sir. I'll take them at the end. Thank you. We also conducted outreach 21 days prior to the March 20th, 2024 TPO board meeting. We released a newsletter, we have a press release, a social media post, and a webpage posted as well. Today, the recommended action is to approve the TIP amendments to add construction funding to the I-4 truck parking facility and recommend approval to the TPO board. And with that, I'll take any comments or questions.
All right, thank you, Connor. Well, guys, we'll start with Bob.
Yes, by the way, this is a great, in my opinion, this is a great project. It's been needed for decades. This has been a huge problem. The only question I have is there any way to get it easy on, easy off the interstate as opposed to having to take it to the interchanges?
I'm not too sure about the details of the design, but I can certainly get more information and provide that to you.
And I have no problem making a motion to approve on this. This is a long overdue area that needs to be addressed, and I applaud FDOT for this.
Let's see if we have any more comments before we take a motion.
Yes, sir.
All right, anybody have any comments or questions? I know I have one, and maybe just to start with, where is it going to be located on I-4? Like, what's the cross street that they're looking at, the exit?
I believe that it's the last exit before Polk County, so I don't know if that's County Line Road.
It is.
Is it County?
Yeah. It's at the southwest quadrant of the interchange of County Line Road and I-4. And to Bob's point, just briefly, the department added around 5 or 6 spaces at each of the way stations, just west of Plant City, as some additional truck parking locations. And I think that's a good point about being accessible directly from the interstate.
Okay, Jay, Paul?
Yeah, my question, Connor, I don't know if you would know this or the FDOT rep, but would be, in disaster relief, I mean, is this something, because this is an FDOT facility. So in disaster relief, FDOT can say, we need this for these types of trucks to come in, like water and food and everything, as opposed to the Walmart truck is just sitting there, the Amazon truck. Is that a thing?
I'm not certain. I'm not sure if there's a DOT rep that can say. I'm not sure if they would have preference to certain trucks in a disaster situation.
Yeah, it's just, it seems like something that would happen for the FDOT facility, so that when you have disaster, that they could go ahead and take that facility for staging. But I don't know if that's a thing that DOT does or not.
Jay, I would say once the governor passes the, emergency order, yeah, that all bets are off. Emergency management takes control.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Bob. Thank you, Connor. It was a good presentation.
Okay, yeah, we're looking at the we're looking at the map, and I know this is about funding, and we'll get to that. And this was brought up before, but it did kind of spark a few questions for me, and it sounds like everyone else is kind of had a similar opinion. Because we were talking about what Bob said about the end seems easy on frontage road is the L, that I'm wondering what they're going to do. Because I sure hope they're not going to have all of us trying to cross County Line Road.
This is reiterating that, Connor, it's just gives you a much better idea, and it is, I believe, where you said.
Not an answer.
So this is looking northeast, so it's the southwest corner.
I guess it's good.
So
But the access will be to that front of the road. It won't be to the right, so. Right, Tom?
it is south of frontage.
One point I think Bob asked a question about direct access to the interstate or, on off, what have you. I think one of the issues with that would be, you mentioned that there's sidewalk pedestrian connections so that they can access the local, whatever stores or businesses there. I don't think they could do that if it's a direct connection to the interstate.
That's a good point. And it does look like it's separated, but I'm not 100% certain.
All right, I just was curious, it kind of goes along with a little bit there. I think we had talked about it before, and you may not know, and I understand this is really the time to talk about it, but do you know if they were putting in any, or considering any charging stations just for general public? So there would be additional, opportunities for, on-road travel charging, you know, even if it was a couple spaces, maybe closer to there's like a McDonald's and a Taco Bus and stuff. And I don't know, I'm just wondering if you know that was part of it.
Right, that's an excellent question, and I was a little bit familiar with that because in the electric vehicle infrastructure plan, I saw the letters of recommendation related to electric vehicle charging.
Mhm.
However, I think with this, I'm not certain why, but those electric spots were taken out of that project.
Too bad. Yeah, I mean, I realize it's for truck, but it just seemed like an opportunity if they're already putting in infrastructure to be able to keep the refrigerated trucks going, they're gonna be running all of that. That's where most of the costs are. Stations really aren't that much, if you've got the power already running. So, I don't know, I guess my opinion from the group, that could still be considered, that'd be great. If not, we'll move forward. And the other concern I have, but I'm less concerned about now, is whether there would be impact on residential areas from, you know, truck lights and truck noise, even though I realize it's supposed to interstate, but it doesn't look like there's, except for maybe a hotel. So, that seems to be less of a concern. So, I don't have any other comments. Does anybody else have anything before you look to take money? Okay, so we have can you put the motion back up?
Absolutely.
I know Bob already. I guess we'll let Bob make a formal motion, please.
Sure. Yeah, I make a motion to approve the TIP amendment for the I-4 truck parking facility project and recommend approval to the TPO board.
All right, very good. Do we have a second? All right, Bob Campbell with the second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much, and thank you, Connor.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the multimodal counts report.
Hi, everyone. Ben Gordon, TPO staff. Give me a second. Let me share my screen. All right. Can everyone see it well?
Yes.
Great. So just for some background, in 2017, Hillsborough TPO's Vision Zero action plan identified a list of high injury network corridors in the county. And these corridors have high rates of crashes resulting in fatalities and serious injuries. And so to understand where the system's most vulnerable users, people on foot and people on bicycles, where they interact with the high injury network, the TPO contracted with Benesch and its subconsultants back in late 2023 to conduct a series of multimodal counts. And so these are just our preliminary results from that study. Now, motor vehicle counts are a typical tool used to evaluate roads and to plan for future needs. But the traditional methods for collecting motor vehicle counts aren't very effective at capturing the activities of people on foot and people on bikes at corridors or on intersections. And the more effective, more accurate way to capture that kind of data is by using video equipment to record and document the numbers of people who are on foot and on bicycles. Camera counts also allow us to determine the road user's precise location. Are they on the road, on a sidewalk, and so on, and their specific direction of travel. So Benesch's subconsultant NDS deployed 80 cameras at locations identified by our staff. And all 79 out of those 80 locations were all on high injury network corridors. There's one exception. It was just a single location that was recommended by our bicycle pedestrian advisory committee. And so Benesch and its subconsultants cooperated with us to determine the number of cameras that we needed and just the desired vantage points to provide adequate coverage at every location. Every camera was installed on public property, mostly street signs, and the device was it was securely attached and locked, and then the camera was telescoped to a higher elevation for just ideal data collection. The camera had a recording device. It was housed in a weatherproof box along with a long-lasting battery. And staff confirmed its operation in view. There was a unique location number on each device that was recorded as part of the quality assurance. And then these cameras recorded all transportation movements. That includes motor vehicles, people on foot, people on bicycles, each for 24-hour time windows. And every location within 3 miles of a public school, the counts were only taken during a day when school was in session, because we didn't want to skew the numbers with, for example, children who were out on weekends or out on holiday. And these counts were completed through September through November 2023. Now, once the data was fully collected, it was downloaded for processing. There are some consultants that use AI to collect the counts. In NDS's case, they had humans review it. So their counters determine the number of bicycles and pedestrians in the coverage area during the filming, as well as just the sort of more conventional vehicle counts as well. And alongside cataloging the number of bicyclists and pedestrians present, the location and facilities used were also identified and diagrammed. And that records the presence of people on foot and on bicycles. We counted the number of people who were in the roadway, in their designated bicycle facility, on a sidewalk, on a multi-use path, on a separate trail facility, then also off-path and on a multi-purpose path. And yeah, so you can see those sort of preliminary results here. So for pedestrians, these were our top locations, and we found, very significant numbers of pedestrians in these 24-hour time windows. You can see that the top 3 were Bayshore Boulevard, north of West Gandy Boulevard, Bloomingdale Avenue, west of Lithia Pinecrest, and then Fletcher Avenue, west of Bruce B. Downs Boulevard. And then for bicyclists, we had, hundreds of bicyclists on the roadways as well. And the top 3 for them were 15th Street between Fowler Avenue and Fletcher Avenue, Fletcher Avenue west of Bruce B. Downs Boulevard, and at Bayshore Boulevard north of West Gandy Boulevard. And so now that we have those preliminary results, we have a little treasure trove of data and a lot of opportunities to look deeper into it. One option is to just consider these numbers and how they relate to the safety results that we have on the high injury network already, in particular, and how they relate to more discrete high risk locations, intersections as well. We could look into sort of gaps in usership levels. So, for example, there may be areas of low volume in between higher volume locations, and that might be a good way to identify a problem area or a concern where a user might feel unsafe at a specific location. And then finally, we can calculate at each location what % of users were on the intended facility. Were they in the bike lane if they were on a bicycle, or were they riding on the sidewalk or in the road? That will be an interesting thing to look into down the line. And I'm sure that there are many more sort of questions that we can investigate with this data as well that aren't even listed here. So with that in mind, I'll open it up to questions and discussion. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ben. Do we have any questions? Okay, well, certainly, probably a lot of good information you haven't had a time to really probably break down. I know, can you pull it back up the tables where it showed the highest pedestrians and so forth?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, again, I guess it's, up to you guys to analysis. I'm very familiar with the Bloomingdale Avenue one. And one thing I would note is that's all of the high school getting out and they're going to the library, Starbucks, Walmart. I know they don't cross Bloomingdale by and large. So I think one thing to look at is whether these high networks, are they crossing the primary thoroughfare or are they staying on one side of the street? I would imagine the pedestrian injuries in that area are probably fairly low because unless they're going to the YMCA, most of them don't cross over. But I'm thinking like 15th, where as I recall, I don't know if it's in this exact area, but there's been lacking infrastructure in portions with sidewalks that were going to be added and so forth. That's probably more of a question, I think, is there infrastructure? And I'm sure you're going to look at it. I'm just kind of talking out loud. And then the other thing that I noticed is, some of the areas that are high pedestrians are also high lights, but like the Bloomingdale one's not, and I don't doubt that because not many of them bike. But, I think that adds another element when you enter, especially if it's leaving a school and you got people walking, the bikes tend to get on the road when they may not be, or maybe taking the less traveled path. So that's something that maybe look at with the video when you talked about. I think it's a good idea to be looking at people that were, not utilizing the areas properly. So I just general opinion, I think you got a lot of good data. You can do a lot with it. One minor note, when you on this, just as more of a typo on the second to last one, you mentioned 30th Street. That's actually Bruce B. Downs at that location.
Slip of the tongue. Thank you.
That's no problem. I know it's 30th up in O'Fallon because I grew up right there, but otherwise I probably wouldn't have known that. But and that is another area. We all know Fletcher has been an issue, especially west of Bruce B. Downs. So and a lot of effort's been made there, and I think a lot positive on the Vision Zero stuff. So again, I guess I've been talking a lot because we have a short agenda, so I feel like I'm empowered a little bit. But so I talked long enough to get another comment from the gallery. Brian.
Thanks, Jeff. I guess this may be more of a question for Wade. So what's the TPO? Is this a recommendation back to the TPO board just to accept the data, or are they also expecting some type of recommendation or action out of it?
Just to accept the report.
So what would be the next steps from the TPO?
Well, this is our first time doing full multimodal counts like this. We did do a brief pilot project with the downtown partnership that we did, I want to say about a dozen locations working with them, although they hired the consultant and everything for that one. This was added to our unified planning work program as a result of that project. And this was our first shot at doing full automated bicycle pedestrian counts, as well as supplementing our normal motor vehicle counts. So we hope to do this in the future. We started with the high injury network on this one. But I think pre and post either pedestrian improvements, multi-use trail improvements, or cycling infrastructure improvements, looking at that before and after number of users and number of crashes as well as a result of those improvements is something we would like to look at moving forward using this type of data.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Any other?
Can I ask sort of an unrelated question? Well, it's related, but it's, with these installations, I'll call them, albeit temporary, did you get right-of-way permits for those? Because a device that looked very much like this chained to a street sign came to our attention from a neighborhood. And our maintenance people were ready to go out there and remove it. Because there was no permit. Nobody knew it was there or what it was. And so it really has nothing to do with the counts and what you're taking to the TPOs.
I think it's relevant because there's a good chance they do another study, and we don't.
And
want
that's
to
kind of the point is,
In the
at
future,
least on the county right away, DOT right away, that's up to DOT or in the cities or whatever, but at least in the county rights of way. I mean, it was about to be removed and then somebody.
I am not sure if we did with this one, but we will make certain to request right-of-way permits for all locations in the future.
Yes. I'm not aware, for all that I know, it could have been the sub-consultant NDS or Benesh who handled that sort of permitting or compliance issue. That is a good thing to bring to our attention though, and I'll check in with them because I'm just curious how that went for them now.
Yeah, it's more for next time. I mean, and we never did find out put it there, whether it was this or something else. But the boxes look very similar to these. In the pictures I saw. Okay, thank you. Again, the study is good, all the information, this is great. I'm not.
Well, Ben, when they did put him in, I know you said you pulled 24 hours of data, but I'm guessing they were typically on site a little longer than that. Like, how long were they actually at a location?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I'd have to look into that.
Any issues with vandalism? That you know?
Going through the write-up in the appendix, you know, I haven't been able, I've not seen any indication of vandalism.
Okay. Just wondered.
In the previous one we did with the downtown partnership, we had threats of vandalism, but no actual carrying them out.
Really can't bring watching the cameras.
It's the adjacent property owner, so we knew who it was then.
Okay. Well, obviously minimizing the time they're in place gets people less suspicious that Big Brother's looking at something that they,
And that's.
you know, so that would be, I guess,
Calls come from.
the only recommendation would be to minimize it, like for the future study, but I think we put it all here. All right, can you flip to the last page, last screen for the motion?
Yes. Is this it?
One more. Then you have a motion, I guess not. Okay, so this is an action item. So you are looking for a motion to accept the report and forward it to the TPO award. Can I get such a motion?
Jonathan Scott, motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Jay Collins, second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Very good. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
All right, last scheduled item, the development of the 25 and 26 UPW.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great. I'm Amber Simmons, TPO staff, and purpose of today's very brief 8-slide presentation is to give you an idea of what the Unified Planning Work Program is, what it contains, our estimated budget, as well as its timeline for development. So what is the UPWP? It's another core requirement of the TPO, and while it's a federal requirement, its purpose is to document and coordinate our transportation planning activities for federal and state funding amongst our partners. How is it different from the Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP? So while the TIP itself identifies specific projects and prioritizes specific projects, the UPWP consists of planning studies that are necessary to carry out our programs and are precursors for qualifying for any discretionary funding opportunities. So what's in this document? It contains planning projects and studies that are categorized in the tasks that you see there. And the draft UPWP is still being drafted, so we've listed or will list some critical path projects. So those are things that we have to do by regulation and things that aren't yet completed from our current fiscal year list of projects. It also contains requested projects from our partners and those that support our planned Hillsborough strategic plan. This year's or upcoming budget, estimated budget that are planning in FTA dollars is $2,495,390 in fiscal year 25 and $2,539,070 in fiscal year 26. There's also $600,000 per year at Surface Transportation Block Grant dollars. And lastly, an estimated $53,000 a year in the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged, or CTD dollars. These figures do not include any deobligated funds from fiscal year 24 or any potential discretionary funds. That budget includes our operating, our personnel, and all our planning projects. Looks like it moved on my screen. There it goes. And it went too far. There we go. So here's our timeline. We have to submit our draft UPWP to FDOT for review by March 15th. In April, we will share the completed draft with all of our committees and receive feedback from all of you and the required agencies. In May, it will go before the board for approval and will be submitted to DOT no later than May 15th. After that, DOT reviews it, Federal Highway reviews it, and the new UPWP and the funding would become effective on July 1st, 2024. Now for a preview of the projects themselves. This slide covers our critical path projects for fiscal year 25 and 26. And as you can see by this list, which is also in your packet, there are many required items, and many of which are related to the 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan. This slide is some of the projects that our partner agencies have requested and are being considered, such as transit, complete streets, non-motorized planning, technology, freight, and multimodal studies. In the first column, second bullet down from Temple Terrace, we have non-motorized planning listed, and they have requested we change the wording a bit. So we are in our final draft that will be submitted. It will say, instead of non-motorized planning, it will say multimodal planning. We wanted to give you this explanation of the Unified Planning Work Program and development timeline so that you have a preview before the April completed draft committee presentations. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions.
Hey, does anybody have any questions or comments? Nope, seems pretty quiet. All right, thank you for the update. I guess we'll be seeing you again probably coming up.
You will.
Right? That ends the scheduled projects. Do we have any old or new business? I do. And I'm gonna talk about this one because I'm positive. If you all recall, within the last couple of months, I kind of got on a soapbox. We were doing a project about it. We got a presentation about like projects to be considered for the future. And I happened to bring up the very poor condition of Causeway Boulevard between 301 and Falkenberg, and that, you know, it was to the point where rocks were being spit up in the air. Why do I bring that up? Because what did my wandering eyes find today? It's been blacktop. So super appreciation for whoever and however it got done. My guess is it was probably already on the docket long ago. I'm sure it wasn't just because it was brought up that it got done. But I want to thank whoever did it because it's definite improvement. There's still other needs out there, 301's breaking down and so forth, but that was the worst that I run across in my time on that half of the county. So it's kind of a postscript. Certainly didn't expect anything to come from it right away. Does anybody know, was that a scheduled thing or did it just?
I'm sure.
I believe it's data in that location.
It had.
Sure.
They can't have enough.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. There's no way they got it within a month or two. Like there's, but I was just like.
There's no.
But nevertheless, so somebody else recognized it and I appreciate that it was done. So I just thought I'd bring it up since we have it. Any other things that anybody would like to discuss? With that, I think this is the quickest meeting we've ever had. It is close. Thank you.
I think that's the DOT road. I was just gonna, from, what did you say, 301 to Falkenberg?
Thank you.
County.
That's county.